Live from inside the Matt Black Kia Studios, it's Football at 4.
Football at 4 is powered by the Inside the Birds podcast. It's brought to you by PropSwap, America's sports betting marketplace. Sell your sports bets, take your profit, find out how. Go to PropSwap.com, download the PropSwap app today. Andrew DiCecco is in. We'll talk a little draft. I want to get his thoughts on some NFL things as well. As Football at 4, we are 1 week away from the NFL draft. 1 week, Andrew. We got a lot to discuss between now and then. What's going on, pal?
Mike, how you doing, man?
Always good to catch up with you as we take a look at what's happening before the draft. But before we get to the draft, I want to get your take on this Deebo Samuel stuff. And obviously, everybody in Philadelphia would be like, hey, Howie, you got to make that call. So Deebo Samuel, would he be a good fit for Jalen Hurts in this offense?
Deebo Samuel is a good fit for any quarterback in any offense. I think that his skill set lends itself favorably to the way the NFL is trending. I think you see a lot of teams right now looking for the next Deebo Samuel, someone that has that versatile skill set that can really do anything that you ask him to do, plug in any formation, any scheme. It's kind of puzzling to me that he wants out because I think he's in a really good spot there in San Francisco with Kyle Shanahan. But it'll be interesting to keep tabs on what happens here. I mean, I think that he would immediately help the offense, give Jalen Hurts another playmaker, which this team desperately needs. And I think that if you're the Eagles and you look at your situation right now, you got to do whatever it takes to get this guy in there because he has it all. Though the biggest concern is the injury history, obviously, but he's managed to stay healthy last year and was very productive. But that's the one caveat is, can he stay healthy? Does he have a long-term future given the physical nature in which he plays the game?
Yeah, and I guess the question is, what's too much? I mean, a first-round pick, a first and a third. Do you give up a first-round pick? Do you start at least there? Are you willing to part with one of your 2 first-round picks to starting there?
I would, yeah, because you're getting a sure thing there. You're not rolling the dice. It's not a gamble. You're getting a guy that you don't have to wait. If you're going to take a receiver, you have to wait and see how quickly they are able to absorb the playbook and get acclimated to the NFL level. So, and the Eagles right now, as we've talked about, need somebody that can step in and play right away. This gives them a top wide receiver, allows Devontae Smith to settle into that wide receiver 2 role, and all of a sudden you have 2 bona fide weapons on the outside ready to go from the day one of training camp. So I think that would have to be an obvious choice or a no-brainer if they're able to. If they're all they're asking for is a first rounder, I think you have to do it.
Yeah, I would imagine it would take a little bit more. The Athletic just wrote a piece saying, a first-round pick and then your third-round pick this year, number 84, and then a third-round pick in 2024. So multiple picks, but just starting with that first-round pick. Some people don't want to part with one of these first-round picks, but I agree with you, Andrew. This is a player. I know he's 26, so he's a little older than some of these guys on their first deal, but you should be able to get another 3 to 5 really productive years out of him. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, and you look at the season that he had last year, I mean, he was unstoppable. Like, he was playing not at a good level, he was playing at an elite level. And you have now to get an elite level with he was only 26 years old. I think
we looked like we lost. Andrew, you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
All right, we look like we broke up with you for a second. The fact that he's 26 years old, you're getting a player who's still in his prime years. I guess that's the contract. You're going to have to sign him to a contract. Would you have any problem signing that? That's one of the big things is these wide receivers, the contracts that they are looking for. Is he a guy that you would pay one of these big contracts to?
Well, and that's the other side of the coin. That's the dangerous part because it's a dangerous game, I should say, because he does have that long-term injury history. He plays the game extremely physical. If they use him as a running back, that even opens the door even more likely that he's going to get injured. He is 26. Last year was like the outlier of his career. He didn't have any bumps and bruises, able to play, but he did get hurt in that playoff game against Green Bay. If you remember, late in the game,
yep.
he left, things like that. So those are things you worry about, just the overuse and the multifaceted nature and dimensions of his game that sort of exposes him to more hits a greater likelihood that he might not be able to play a full slate of games.
Now, one of the reports from Adam Schefter indicated, because there was a lot of, you brought up an interesting point, and there's been, there were some thoughts that he doesn't like his role, meaning he doesn't want to run the ball anymore. He doesn't want to be this dual threat. He just wants to be a receiver. The quarterback there, does he prefer one over the other? Schefter essentially says he just wants to live closer to home. So I don't know how that factors into a trade. If San Francisco says, hey, sorry, we couldn't find a place close enough to South Carolina, but, I don't know if that's surprising or not, but I think that would make things difficult for San Francisco, wouldn't it, to say, hey, I want to move closer to home. You got to trade me somewhere in the Southeast.
Yeah, I don't think we've ever seen anything like that. It's an interesting demand, and it puts San Francisco in a tough spot. I don't know that they're going to have any takers. It's going to get them right near South Carolina. Right. I don't know how that's going to work out.
Yeah, you're looking at Jacksonville, Carolina, Atlanta. Those three teams you got to probably deal with in that case. I don't know. You can get on a flight from Philadelphia probably in about 2 hours down there, but hey, we'll see. So that's what's really on the docket with Deebo Samuel today is, I don't know. I guess the question for you would be, do you anticipate him getting traded on draft night?
I think he will, but I don't know that it'll be with the Eagles. I don't know that the Eagles are going to want to commit to him long term, with that sort of substantial financial commitment to a player like that with the injury history. I think that they might be a little hesitant to do so. I do think we'll get moved, though.
All right, Andrew DiCecco, Football at 4 here on the Sports Bash Live, 97.3 ESPN. Howie Roseman spoke yesterday and had a couple of very intriguing things that he kind of brought to the table when you take a look at this draft class coming up. And one of them, I guess we want to start with the safety spot. We talked about wide receivers when you were here on Tuesday. Safety is where we want to kind of look at a little bit more today. But he said he was asked, can you talk specifically about a position of need at safety? Now, Roseman gave an answer that kind of indicated, well, we don't really need a safety. We got Kayvon Wallace. We got Andre Chachere, Jared Maiden. They obviously need a safety. But any of those guys, Chachere, Jared Maiden, Kayvon Wallace, Marcus Epps, I mean, would you be shocked if they went into the season with one of those guys starting?
If it was anybody other than Marcus Epps, I would be extremely shocked because I don't think Kayvon Wallace can play, not at the level that the Eagles think that he can. I think he's a fourth safety, a core special teams guy, but he's really showed you what he is, and he does. He also struggles to stay on the field as well, but when he has, his limitations have shown. So, I mean, Marcus Epps, I know they really like him, but I could see him starting, but I can't see Anthony Harris starting. Anthony Harris seems to me to be a one-dimensional safety at this point in his career, more of a third safety, box type of player. I think that it should be, the combination probably should be Marcus Epps and a young safety that you're taking probably in the second round.
Yeah, and, some of those guys, you mentioned Brisker. Now, you saw his pro day, right?
Yeah.
And you left very impressed by that, right? I feel like there's a couple of interesting safety spots. As I do some more looking at this, I'm kind of intrigued by those safeties that are going to be in that 51 area.
Yeah, I don't think Lewis Seen's going to be there, but you're going to have Brisker, you're going to have Petrie, the Swiss Army knife from Baylor that I think can fulfill a myriad of needs that the Eagles have. I think Brisker is more of a traditional safety. He sort of reminds me of a Malcolm Jenkins type of player. He can play the post. He can play the box. Anything you need him to do, he can do it. So he's someone that I think he really redeemed himself at his pro day, ran a 4.4 flat, as he said, looked extremely fluid in the drills, has the size, extremely proficient tackler, continued to get better each season at Penn State, and I think he offers a ton of upside. To me, I would make Brisker the pick at 51. I think there's sort of a drop-off in terms of NFL-ready guys you're going to find there at 83. I don't know that you're going to find a plug-and-play safety, which, again, the Eagles need sort of like wide receiver. But I would look at Brisker and Petrie from Baylor right at pick 51.
Okay, I'll give you a couple safeties I want to get your thoughts on. Nick Cross out of Maryland.
Like Nick Cross a lot. I think if they're looking at to address it in the third round, he'd be the guy at 83. I like his size. I like his athleticism. I don't know that he's going to step in right away and be a starter. I think he's going to be a third safety and a special teams guy right off the bat. And he offers an immense upside. He's got the size, speed, athleticism profile that you're looking for. Still a little bit raw. I think there's areas of his game that can use a little bit more refinement, but I'm really high on Nick Cross. I just think that, unfortunately, for the situation that the Eagles are in, they can't afford to take someone that's not ready to play day one or contribute in some form or fashion.
All right, let's look at your thoughts on Daxton Hill. I would imagine he's not a 51 type of player, but
Right.
Would they think about him at 18?
18 would be a realistic possibility. There's no chance that he's available at 51. I just think that there's too many teams that are going to be intrigued with his upside. He could even be a full-time corner for somebody easily. He has the hip fluidity, the ball skills, the football IQ to do anything you need him to do. He could add another 5-7 pounds and be a strong safety. Play tough, make some open field tackles. But he just sees the game extremely well. Good eye discipline. Like I said, I think he's someone that really rose through the draft process. I think he's going to be right around that 16, 18, 20-ish range, and a day one starter, in my opinion.
All right, let's go to Cincinnati. I like this kid a lot. I want to see what you think and where he might be. Brian Cook at Cincinnati. What's his name at Cincinnati?
Yeah, you're right.
Brian Cook, right?
Brian Cook. Yeah, you got it.
Completely blank. Brian Cook, sorry.
Yeah, he's a back-end tone setter, right? Big hitter, former corner, someone that I think sometimes his eyes will get him into trouble. You worry about his long speed, but I think that there's certain, depending on the scheme that he's in, I think he can be an early impact type of player if you allow him to have some protection on the back end, because I think he can get exposed a little bit with some guys that can run. But I like his range. I like his football intelligence. I like his ability to sort of galvanize a secondary with his big hitting, and he's a smart player. So he's someone that I've been asked about a lot throughout this process, and I do like him. But again, I think I have him a little bit behind Nick Cross as far as my safety rankings go, and I don't think he's going to be a day one plug and play starter type of player.
There's a running back, James Cook, is who he's the Georgia kid. I confused Brian Cook and there's a running back at Georgia, right? James Cook.
Yeah, you're right.
All right,
it's tough to get all these names right. So many names get tossed at you.
I've been doing a lot of reading and research recently. So James Cook is a running back. Brian Cook's the safety. Kirby Joseph, Illinois. I like this kid a lot.
Yeah, so do I. The only concern that you have is that he was a one-year starter. Sometimes his inexperience will show up like on tape. But I think he had like 5 interceptions last year, so he has the ball skills. There's a lot of raw ability and enticing traits that you like about him. I think if you get him in the right system, he can be someone that can step right in and give you quality snaps. Again, it's probably a third safety right away. But, I mean, I like his athletic profile. I think the game is still he's still learning the game, and things are starting to you started to see the light bulb come on for him, and I think that he's just scratching the surface of his capabilities. He's one of those guys that has a really high ceiling, and I don't think he's come close to reaching it yet. But I think he's going to be a good value pick for some team. I think he probably goes late third, early fourth.
I was going to say 101 would be the spot for Eagles fans if he's available around there. Lewis Scene's another guy from Georgia, probably. He's probably a late first rounder, probably not getting to 51 though.
Nah, he could even be one of those guys that creeps in the back end of the first round. Wouldn't surprise me at all. 6'2", 200 pounds, plays the game extremely physical. I like his range and his sideline-to-sideline prowess. I always wonder if he needs to bulk up a little bit in order to be able to withstand the rigors of the NFL, given his playing style and his downhill mentality and approach. But I think that outside of – I have him rated just above Brisker, and I think that he would be an immediate upgrade over anyone the Eagles have currently in-house, obviously, and someone that I think will really just cement that secondary and be the glue on the back end. He can do so many different things, and Jonathan Gannon has to be looking at a guy like him or Brisker and say, you bang the table for these guys and say, you got to give me one of these playmakers.
Yeah, I would agree. The last safety on my list from you is Verone McKinley at Oregon. Kind of intriguing, maybe, I guess, in that 4th round area.
Yeah, and he was somebody that I've been asked about quite a bit early in the process, who felt a little bit more highly regarded and sort of became like a non-factor, an afterthought. And I think it's just because of his size and his lack of speed and maybe short area quickness. And there's some limitations to his game that makes you wonder if he's going to be a part-time player or just a rotational player. I don't know that he's going to be an every-game star that you want back there because there's just too many holes in his game right now. And I think it all starts with just the overall fluidity, sideline to sideline, range, speed, and all that. There's just too many question marks.
Let me throw Marquise Bell in too, a local kid. Where do you have him drafted, or do you have him as an undrafted free agent?
Yeah, great question. I think he goes 6 or 7, around 6 or 7. He has the size and the raw traits that I think that you're going to see a team not want to sort of, enter let him have his choice of teams. And, you might have one of those teams that just throws a lot of money at him and they're able to get him. I think if you're a team that sees what he's able to potentially become and you have the coaching staff in place, you say, let's take this guy and we'll work on everything else and he'll be a player for us down the road. But if you draft him, you have to understand that he's going to be a player that's going to be a down the road acquisition. He's not going to be an immediate impact guy.
For people who know Marquise from Bridgeton, he was a Division I. He went at Maryland. He was a big-time Division I recruit. He ended up at Florida A&M. So he does have very Division I athletic traits. So he could be a very sleeperish type of player in this draft. Florida A&M is where he went. Draft day is almost here. Is there another safety I didn't ask you about that you have on your mind?
Well, there was one that I like in Sterling Weatherford from Miami of Ohio. He's that hybrid type of player that the NFL, the direction the NFL is trending. And unfortunately, the Eagles need more of a back-end type of player, but I think that he would be an interesting late-round project type of player that could do a lot of what they thought that Nate Gary could do, except I think Sterling's a lot more athletic and is a little bit more polished and refined in that regard. So he would be somebody that would be an interesting, probably 5th, 6th round guy, in my opinion.
All right, we'll look at the safety class because as the question was asked to Howie Roseman yesterday, that's the safeties on their roster. Anthony Harris, Marcus Epps, and a whole bunch of question marks. So we looked at safety today. We'll get closer next week. We'll have a ton more on the prospects and how this draft could all shake out. Andrew DiCecco, Football at 4 from InsideTheBirds.com. Andrew, great talk, man.
Always, man. Talk soon.
Yeah, and I could I bet Smoke Monday is a safety at Auburn, and Percy Butler is at Louisiana Lafayette. You got JoJo Dominin over at Nebraska. Another guy to keep in mind, he said Sterling Weatherford. There's one more safety that's a little deeper in the draft class that you might hear something from